and it was a connection from the east and west on the Avery Trace. And, I guess the name Williamsburg comes from Septon Williams, would be my guess, you know.
It is.
And he's buried on that property, correct?
Along with his wife and other family members.
I understood that Williamsburg was, the Yankees burned to the ground, every structure.
No.
No.
Is that
No.
true or not?
No, it just like.
So that's the connection to Blunt?
Well, I can give
In
you a
other
little
words,
bit. I can give you a
Williamsburg
little
was
bit.
built way later than that was the capital.
Right, Williamsburg was after Fort Blount.
I can give you a
Well,
little
they were
bit.
about the same
Fort
time.
Blount, like Tennessee itself was a part of North Carolina for a while. And it kind of went back, it actually went back and forth twice. They seceded from North Carolina and then they put it as a U.S. territory. Then I think it came back once, like to North Carolina, and then went back the other way. Well, while it was North Carolina, the North Carolina legislature decided that they needed, there was a lot of settlers coming in here after the Revolutionary War. And they decided that they needed a better route to go, like between, say, after you come through the Cumberland Gap and you were going like down into the middle of Tennessee here, which would be like where Nashville is now. They decided and they hired somebody or paid someone to blaze this trail. And at first it was called the Emory Road, and it went through the Emory Gap pretty early, like when it came through there. And then, but the guy that was the guide or that led the expedition to come down through there and blaze this trail, his name was Peter Avery, and so it got to be known as
Avery Trace.
Let me interrupt you, just to show how history is done. See, the real Avery Trace story, a man, think about, if you look at this book,
Who wrote it?
he did this, James Woodard. He's been researching this for years. He says there's no such thing as the Avery Trace.
Wow.
This is how history's done.
Wow.
One person says one thing, another person says another. Then the state of Tennessee actually put up signs for the Avery Trace Historical Trail. Now, there's pretty much proof there's no such thing as the Avery Trace.
Wow.
Because if you read this guy is totally negative. He goes all the way in. I got tired of reading it, but I read it. I've heard that story before.
Avery probably never. Anyway, the old story is that they built about 8 different blockhouses along this trail to protect the people and one of them was Fort Blount. And it was that they called it wasn't called Fort Blount right away. They called it the crossing of the Cumberland or the ford of the Cumberland or something like that. And
During that period of time, they started establishing Williamsburg, meant to make a town. Then they moved to Tennessee, and during the town that died out. Does that sound?
No, it says that, and it also says that it was a brick courthouse, and that Samson Williams tore the brick off and built his own residence out of the courthouse bricks. Now it says that there's all kinds of stuff in here that you can read what he wrote.
That book over there that Sam did has reference and everything, and it's the most accurate thing that you'll find. And,
Who is Sam?
Sam Swinger.
There's of course lawful right of way all around the sides. And now this is what he said, and then when I investigated all the things that I could, he said, now there's somebody in, I don't know who turned it in, Fort Blount Jail, okay? The building don't look like a jail, it's a log house. You've seen that picture, it's on calendars. Well, then that building is a different building than that building. And he told me that it was probably the post office. The reason why he thought so, it was a 2-story building, had an upstairs. It doesn't now, because it was rotted at the bottom, and they just shortened it when I put it back up. It's in Baxter, been in Baxter since that year. He got up in the top.
What year, I'm sorry, what year did you?
72 when he tore it down. He paid $25 for it, whoever owned it, and he said it was a Smith family. And When he got upstairs tearing it down, it was loaded with books that said Williamsburg. They were court books. I had him describe what they looked like, because I was the first archivist of this county, and I'm Putnam County's archivist for several years now. And he described them in the same kind of book that they would have in 1796 when Tennessee started, became a state. So I told him, what did he do with them and about him? I've known him before that, so I've known him for years. I never knew him to exaggerate, and he wasn't dumb. He was a smart person. He collected arrowheads and very intelligent, very well off. So he wouldn't have exaggerated on. Farmers usually don't exaggerate. They know how to count corn. They know who's talking. You listen to who and what their experience is, and then you get an idea. Are they making sense? So I knew he was a worker and he did construction. So I figured when he told me that he thought there were 25 of them, there were probably around 25. Some people might say 25, and there might have been 10. So I assumed that. I said, what did you do with them? He said, well, I didn't know what to do with them. I loved them. I said, who did you give them to? So he gave them to someone, their last name was Smith, in 1972. So you may be able to figure out who's got them if they could have set them somewhere where they they ruined.
Okay.
But they were in that building that he tore down.
That building was a building that I was raised in.